You ever notice how some people just get it? Like they read the room before anyone says a word? They know what you're thinking before you finish your sentence? Yeah, that used to be my superpower. Until it became my curse. Because here's what nobody tells you about understanding people too well. It ruins everything. And I'm about to show you exactly how. So I've always been that person who picks up on things. The small stuff. Like when someone's smile doesn't reach their eyes. Or when they say, I'm fine, but their voice goes up just a little bit at the end. Most people miss this stuff. But not me. Never me. And for a long time I thought this was amazing. I thought I had figured out some secret code to life. I could predict what people were going to say. I could feel the mood shift in a room before anyone else noticed. I knew when someone was lying, when they were hurt, when they were about to blow up. It felt like having X-ray vision for emotions. But then, something changed. I started noticing things I didn't want to notice. Like how my friend would only text me when she needed something. Every single time. She'd start with, hey, how are you? But within 3 messages, there'd be a favor. A ride. Money. Emotional support for the same problem she refused to fix. And once I saw the pattern, I couldn't unsee it, or how my coworker would take credit for ideas in meetings. Not in an obvious way, just subtle enough. He'd reword what someone else said, pause for effect, and suddenly everyone thought it was his brilliant insight. I watched it happen over and over, and nobody else caught it. Or how my own family had these roles we all played. My mom was the martyr, my dad was the avoider, my sister was the golden child who could do no wrong. And me? I was the emotional trash can. Everyone's problems ended up dumped on me. And the worst part? Once you see these patterns, you can't just turn it off. You start seeing manipulation everywhere. Not always the evil kind. Sometimes it's just people being people. But you see it all the same. Like when someone gives you a compliment, but it's actually fishing for validation. Oh my God, I look so ugly today. They don't think that. They want you to disagree. They want you to praise them. And you do it. Because that's the game. That's what people need. But knowing it's a game, that changes everything. You start feeling like you're watching a play where everyone else thinks it's real life. Your friend tells you about their relationship problems for the 100th time. Same guy, same issues. And you know, they're not going to leave him. They just want to vent. They want you to validate their choice to stay. So you listen. You nod. You say the right things. But inside, you're screaming. Because you can see exactly how this ends. You've seen it end this way 5 times already. But you can't say that. Because people don't actually want solutions. They want sympathy, and this is where it gets dark, because you start to feel alone. Really alone. You're surrounded by people, but you feel like you're the only one who's awake. Everyone else is sleepwalking through their patterns and habits and defense mechanisms, and you can't connect with them anymore. Not really. Because connection requires some level of innocence, the ability to just be present without analyzing everything. But your brain won't let you do that anymore. Someone's telling you a story, and you're not listening to the story. You're listening to why they're telling you the story. What do they need from you? What are they trying to prove? What image are they trying to maintain? Your partner says, I love you. And instead of just feeling it, you're analyzing their tone. Was there hesitation? Did they say it because they felt obligated? Are they trying to smooth over an argument? You can't just receive love anymore. You have to dissect it. And people feel that. They feel you watching them, analyzing them, seeing through them, so they pull away. And you don't blame them. Because who wants to be around someone who sees all your stuff, all your insecurities and manipulations and fears? It's exhausting for them. And it's lonely for you. Because here's the thing about understanding people too well. It creates this gap. This distance, you know too much, and they know that you know. And suddenly there's this tension that never goes away. I remember sitting at dinner with friends once. Everyone was laughing and talking and having a good time. And I was just watching. I saw how Jake always interrupted people to one-up their stories. I saw how Sarah kept checking her phone because she was bored but didn't want to be rude. I saw how Mike was drinking too much because he was stressed about work but wouldn't talk about it. And I felt like I was behind glass, separate, disconnected. They were in the moment. I was in my head. And the brutal truth? I put myself there. Because once you start analyzing people, you can't stop. It becomes automatic. Your brain just does it now. You meet someone new, and within 5 minutes, you've mapped out their whole personality. Their wounds, their coping mechanisms, their lies they tell themselves. And maybe you're right, maybe you're not. But either way, you've already created a barrier between you and them. Because you're not seeing them as a person anymore, you're seeing them as a puzzle to solve. And people aren't puzzles. They're messy and contradictory, and they change their minds, and they don't even understand themselves half the time. But you're trying to understand them completely, and that's the problem. It's arrogant, honestly. To think you can know someone better than they know themselves. But when you're right over and over again, that arrogance gets reinforced. Your friend says they're happy with their new job. You see the stress in their jaw, hear the forced enthusiasm in their voice. 3 weeks later, they're crying to you about how much they hate it. You were right. Your family member says they've changed. You see the same old patterns playing out in different clothes. 6 months later, same drama, different day. You were right. Your partner says nothing's wrong. You feel the distance, the shift, the pulling away. A month later, they want to break up, and they say they've been feeling this way for a while. You were right. And every time you're right, it reinforces this belief that you can see what others can't, that you understand people on some deeper level. But here's what that does to you over time. It makes you cynical. You stop believing what people say because you're always looking for what's underneath, the real reason, the hidden motive. Someone does something nice for you, and you can't just accept it. You have to figure out the angle. What do they want? What are they getting out of this? And most of the time you're probably wrong. Most of the time people are just being nice. But you can't see that anymore. You've trained yourself to look for the shadow behind every action. It makes you bitter. Because you see all the ways people hurt each other, often without even meaning to. You see how your friend's offhand comment crushed someone's confidence. You see how your family's jokes are actually just cruelty dressed up as humor. You see how people use love as currency, as leverage, as a weapon. And you can't unhear it. You can't unsee it, so you start to hate people a little bit, even the ones you love. Because they're all playing these games, wearing these masks, and you're tired of pretending you don't notice. It makes you isolate. Because if you can't connect authentically, why bother? You start turning down invitations. You stop sharing things about yourself. You build walls and call it boundaries. And maybe that's healthy to some degree, but it's also lonely. Really, really lonely. You ever feel like you're the only real person in a world full of NPCs? Like everyone else is just running their programmed scripts and you're the only one who's actually conscious? That's what this feels like. And it's torture, because humans need connection. We need to feel seen and understood and accepted. But how can you feel seen by people you don't think can see you? How can you feel understood by people you think you understand better than they understand themselves? You can't. So you end up in this trap. You understand people so well that you can't connect with them. And the lack of connection makes you understand them even more because you're always on the outside looking in. It's a cycle that feeds itself. And here's the really dark part that nobody talks about. You start to wonder if you're even right about any of this. Maybe you're not some super perceptive genius who sees through everyone. Maybe you're just paranoid. Maybe you're projecting your own issues onto everyone else. Maybe that friend really does care about you, and you're just too damaged to see it. Maybe your partner really is happy, and you're creating problems that don't exist. Maybe people are simpler than you think, and you're the one making everything complicated. But then you see the pattern play out exactly like you predicted, and you think, no, I was right. And that's almost worse, because being right doesn't feel good anymore. It just feels inevitable and sad. You predicted your friend would bail on you. They did. But there's no satisfaction in being right, just disappointment. You knew the relationship wouldn't work, it didn't. But you don't feel smart, you just feel tired. Being right all the time about people's flaws and failures and patterns doesn't make you feel superior. It makes you feel hopeless, because if you can see how everything's going to play out, what's the point? Where's the surprise? Where's the joy? Life becomes this predictable loop of human behavior, and you're just waiting for people to do exactly what you expect them to do. And they usually do. So what's the answer here? How do you deal with this? Honestly, I'm still figuring it out. But here's what I've learned so far. First, You have to accept that understanding people doesn't mean you know everything about them. People are more complex than your analysis. They surprise you. They grow. They change. Your perception of them is not the truth. It's just your perception. And you need to hold that lightly. Second, you have to practice being wrong. Deliberately. Assume the best instead of assuming the worst. Give people the benefit of the doubt even when your gut says otherwise. Sometimes you'll be right and they'll let you down. But sometimes you'll be wrong and they'll surprise you. And those surprises are what keep you human. Third, you have to learn to turn it off. The analysis. The constant reading of people. Just be present sometimes. Listen to the story without looking for subtext. Accept the compliment without questioning the motive. Feel the love without dissecting it. It's hard. Your brain doesn't want to do this. But you have to practice it like a muscle. And fourth, you have to find people who see you the way you see them. People who are also awake, who also notice, who also understand. Because they exist. And when you find them, it's different. You're not alone behind the glass anymore. You're both in it together, seeing the same things, understanding each other. And that connection, that real connection with someone who gets it, that makes all the loneliness worth it. Because here's the truth about understanding people too well. It's not actually about understanding people, it's about protecting yourself. You analyze people so you can predict them. You predict them so you can protect yourself from getting hurt. But in protecting yourself from pain, you also protect yourself from connection, from love, from joy, from surprise. You build walls so high that nothing can hurt you, but nothing can reach you either. And that's the real curse, not that you see too much, but that you use what you see as a reason to stay disconnected. So maybe the answer isn't to stop understanding people. Maybe it's to understand yourself. Why do you need to know everything? Why can't you just let people be messy and contradictory and surprising? What are you so afraid of? For me, it was being blindsided. Being hurt by someone I trusted, being the fool who didn't see it coming. But you know what? Sometimes being the fool is okay. Sometimes getting hurt is part of being alive. Sometimes not knowing what's coming next is what makes life interesting. Understanding people too well isn't a superpower, it's a defense mechanism. And like all defense mechanisms, it protects you from the bad stuff. But it also keeps out the good stuff. So if you're like me, if you see too much and feel too separate and analyze too deeply, try this. Let someone surprise you, let yourself be wrong, let your guard down just a little bit. It's scary, I know. But it's also the only way back to connection, the only way back to feeling alive instead of just observing life. Because at the end of the day, understanding people is easy. Connecting with them, that's the hard part, and maybe that's the lesson. Stop trying to understand everyone and just try to be with them. If this hit different for you, there's more where this came from.